Called it the start of a new world order. Barack Obama said the G20 summit was historic. After a day and a half of negotiations, the leaders of the world's most influential nations have signed up to a $1 trillion deal to revive the world economy and boost trade. Some of the poorest countries in the world stand to gain, as do Eastern European nations hit hardest by the global downturn. Tonight, we'll get reaction from around the world. We'll look at what it means for Britain's economy and Gordon Brown's political standing. First, Nick Robinson on what the Prime Minister is calling the fight back against recession. There is flash photography in this report.
Enter the $1 trillion man and the other members of the richest club in the world who are footing the bill. The G20 summit have agreed to put aside that sum to underwrite world trade and to help prop up failing economies. Next to the host, one of those paying the most, China's President Hu. It's a moment they all wanted to catch for the family album. When the summit ended, Gordon Brown spoke, not as Prime Minister, but as Chancellor of the World Exchequer, rather as if he was delivering a sort of global budget.
This is the day that the world came together to fight back against the global recession. Not with words, but with a plan for global recovery and for reform.
It's almost over. You're going to be fine.
It's almost over, President Obama said hopefully when he arrived this morning, aware that his summit host had already taken some difficult issues off the agenda. President Sarkozy posed for the cameras. Pictures to go with the headlines he generated by threatening to walk out. Of course, he never did. Long before this summit even began, Gordon Brown lost the argument the world leaders should come here to London and promise to spend or borrow even more to stimulate their economies. But he has managed to persuade them to stump up to $1 trillion in all sorts of financial schemes and wheezes. One is for trade finance, a kind of export insurance to get people buying and selling again. The other is for more funds for the IMF, which gives loans to countries whose economies are really struggling. And then there's the complex idea of something called SDRs, or special drawing rights, which in effect is a global scheme to print money.
And this is in addition to, and not an alternative to, the fiscal stimulus that is being done, the injection of resources, the new investment, the support for the unemployed and for housing that's being done in most countries now around the world.
Every leader wants their media to report this as a victory for them. That won't stop the debate at home. The Tories welcome the deal, but
now the focus should switch back to our domestic economy, because small businessmen needing a loan to keep their businesses going, they are still suffering. And our public finances here in Britain, the level of our deficit is truly horrific, and we need to act on that, and act on that now.
What, though, of the much billed big fight about financial regulation between America and Britain, the countries blamed for this crisis by France and Germany? Well, you know what? It never happened. President Sarkozy said that the G20's promise today to clean up the banks was more than he'd ever hoped for.
Nos amis anglo-saxons ont accepté tout ceci, c'est un progrès.
The very fact that our Anglo-Saxon friends should have accepted all of this is a huge step forward. I really believe that never at a meeting of this nature have we made such headway.
Sur les paradis fiscaux.
The most popular politician on earth.
This summit was, of course, not just about the economy. It was about him and his first meetings with the presidents and the prime ministers of the world.
Is that where all the pretty girls are?
This summit had, President Obama said, been historic by any measure. My colleague Justin Webb posed this tricky question to the president.
Could you give us an insight into an area or areas where you came to London wanting something and didn't get it?
Well, I think
that left him rather stumped.
There are probably some areas where it wasn't so much of a sacrifice as it might not have been our number one priority, but it became clear that it was very important to certain other actors.
There is no doubt that this summit has been a success for him and for him. Will it though be? a success for the economy. Nick Robinson, BBC News at the G20 summit in London.
One by one, the G20 leaders